On March 27, 2025, a seemingly routine drive on Interstate 85 in Alabama turned deadly. What began as an ordinary Thursday afternoon ended with 21-year-old Genmia Grimes fighting for her life with a gunshot wound to her head. Her boyfriend, McLeod, claimed it was self-inflicted. But as investigators would soon discover, the truth behind Genmia's final moments told a much darker story. This is the case of Genmia Grimes, known to many as Purple Doll, a vibrant dancer, dedicated student, and young mother whose life was cut short just as she was blossoming into her fullest potential. Her story isn't just about a life lost, it's about the insidious nature of domestic violence that often hides behind closed doors. Before you continue watching this story of tragic love and loss, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us shine light on cases that need to be remembered. If you believe Genmia's story deserves to be heard, hit that like button and share this video. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, Genmia Grimes entered the world destined to stand out. Growing up in southwest Atlanta, she attended Mays High School, where her talent for dance truly began to flourish. Her energetic personality and undeniable skill made her popular among peers, but it was a viral dance video during her high school years that brought her wider recognition, even being featured on Access Hollywood. She always had this way of moving that just caught your eye, recalled a former teacher. Even in a crowded room, you'd find yourself watching Genmia. She had that special something, that star quality. In 2021, Genmia graduated from Mays High School and set her sights on higher education, choosing Alabama State University to pursue her dreams. At ASU, Genmia, now increasingly known as Purple Doll or sometimes Strawberry, quickly became a standout on campus. She chose to major in criminal justice, harboring ambitions of one day becoming an FBI agent or lawyer. Genmia was determined, said one of her professors. She wasn't just taking classes to get a degree. She was passionate about criminal justice. The irony that she would eventually become a victim in that very system isn't lost on any of us. While building her academic foundation, Genmia never abandoned her first love, dance. She became an essential member of the university's Honey Bees dance team, where her technical skill and performance energy made her invaluable. Videos of her performances spread across social media, cementing her reputation as a dancer to watch. Those who knew Genmia described a young woman who was full of life, love, and ambition. Her smile could light up a room, and her energy was infectious. Friends described how she could turn even mundane moments into something joyful, bringing laughter and positivity wherever she went. Genmia's social media presence reflected her vibrant personality. In one particularly popular video, she enthusiastically announced, "Hey y'all, what's tea? It's your girl, Purple Doll, and I'm collabing with Quality Control Music for JT City Cinderella concert this week in Birmingham. Y'all got y'all tickets because I will be in the building." Beyond her academic and dance achievements, Genmia had a profound impact on her community at Alabama State University. Younger dancers looked up to her, seeking her advice and mentorship. She was known for staying after practice to help teammates perfect routines. She wasn't just talented, she was generous with that talent, recalled the Honey Bees coach. Genmia was always lifting others up. She wanted everyone around her to succeed. As Genmia's second year at Alabama State University came to a close, she had established herself as a rising star on campus, academically focused, artistically talented, and socially magnetic. No one could have predicted that the next chapter of her life would lead her toward both motherhood and, ultimately, tragedy. It was during the fall semester of her sophomore year when Genmia first met McLeod, a freshman football player at Alabama State University. Standing at 6 feet 3 inches and weighing approximately 400 pounds, Rogers was an imposing figure on the offensive line. His athletic scholarship had brought him to ASU, where his size and skill quickly made him a valuable asset to the team. Their first meeting happened at a campus celebration after a football victory where the Honey Bees had performed. Friends recall that Rogers appeared immediately taken with Genmia, approaching her with confidence that matched his physical presence. "You could tell he was interested right away," remembered a mutual friend. "He kept finding reasons to be wherever she was. At first, it seemed sweet, like he was really pursuing her. But looking back, there were signs that his interest was more about possession than affection. The relationship progressed quickly. Within months, they were a recognized couple on campus, the talented dancer and the promising football player. Then came news that changed everything. Genmia was pregnant. The pregnancy, while unexpected for a sophomore with professional ambitions and dance commitments, didn't deter Genmia from her goals. Throughout her pregnancy, she maintained her studies and stayed connected to the dance team. After giving birth to a son, McLeod III, Genmia demonstrated remarkable determination. Within weeks of delivery, she was back in classes and soon returned to the honeybees. "What impressed me most was how she juggled everything," said a faculty advisor. "She'd come to class prepared, excel in discussions, and then rush to pick up her baby before heading to dance practice. I've never seen such determination, especially one facing the challenges of young motherhood." But behind this image of a successful young family, troubling dynamics were developing. Genmia began occasionally missing dance practices, something completely out of character for her. When she did appear, teammates sometimes noticed bruises she attempted to cover with makeup or clothing. "She'd say she bumped into something or fell during practice at home," recalled a fellow dancer. "But dancers know bodies. We know the difference between a practice injury and something else. We could tell something wasn't right." As the months passed, the pattern of abuse became more apparent. Roger's controlling behavior extended beyond physical violence. He would appear unexpectedly at her classes, check her phone regularly, and question her about male classmates or dance team members. His jealousy was particularly focused on her dance activities. "He would sit in on practices, just watching with this look on his face," said another dancer. "It made everyone uncomfortable. You could see Genmia stiffen up, become less expressive. She wasn't the same dancer when he was there." According to confidants, Rogers would become particularly aggressive after football losses or when faced with academic pressure. His massive physical size, nearly 400 pounds compared to Genmia's petite frame, meant any physical altercation was inherently dangerous for her. Friends reported seeing Genmia with a black eye she blamed on a dance accident, bruises on her arms she attributed to bumping into furniture, and a sprained wrist she claimed happened while lifting her baby. Each explanation seemed plausible in isolation, but together they formed a disturbing pattern. Despite the abuse, Genmia remained silent to authorities. Her reasons were complex, reflecting the complicated reality many abuse victims face. First was concern for her child. She wanted her son to have his father in his life. Additionally, she worried about the consequences Rogers would face. As a scholarship athlete, a domestic violence charge could end his educational opportunities and football career. "She told me once, if I report him, his life is over. His scholarship, his education, it would all be gone," recalled a close friend. Financial concerns also played a role. As a young mother and full-time student, Genmia relied partly on Rogers' financial contribution for childcare and living expenses. Dr. Elaine Foster, a domestic violence expert who reviewed the case, explained, "The decision to stay and remain silent isn't about weakness, it's about survival." Victims perform complex risk calculations, weighing physical safety against economic security, co-parenting relationships, and fear of escalation if they attempt to leave. The cycle of abuse followed a pattern familiar to experts: tension building, explosive incident, reconciliation, and a period of calm before beginning again. After violent episodes, Rogers would become apologetic, showering Genmia with gifts and promises of change. Friends observed changes in Genmia's once vibrant personality. The young woman who had been outgoing and confident became more reserved, often checking her phone anxiously when messages came in. "It happened so gradually," reflected her former roommate. "The Genmia I met when we first came to ASU wouldn't recognize the Genmia from this past year. She second-guessed everything, always worried about how Rogers would react. It wasn't a relationship, it was a prison." As her junior year progressed, those close to Genmia had increasing concerns for her safety. The bright, ambitious dancer was trapped in an increasingly dangerous situation, one that would ultimately lead to the events of March 27, 2025. March 27, 2025, began as an ordinary Thursday for Genmia Grimes. She attended her morning criminal justice seminar, met with fellow honeybees at the campus cafeteria, and checked in with her childcare provider about her son. Text messages recovered from her phone showed she planned to pick him up that evening. At approximately 2:30 p.m., Genmia attended dance practice, though teammates reported she seemed distracted. Practice ended early around 3:45 p.m., and Genmia was seen leaving campus in a black sedan driven by McLeod. A teammate who waved goodbye would later tell investigators this was the last time she saw Genmia alive. What happened in the next hour remains the subject of intense scrutiny, with Rogers' version of events standing in stark contrast to the evidence later uncovered. According to Rogers' initial statement, he and Genmia were driving along Interstate 85 when, without warning, Genmia reached into the glove compartment, retrieved a handgun he kept there, and shot herself in the head. She just snapped, Rogers told responding officers, his voice shaking in bodycam footage. We weren't even arguing. She was just quiet for a minute. Then she reached over, got the gun, and I couldn't stop her. I tried to grab her arm but I was driving, and it happened so fast. Rogers claimed he immediately pulled over, called 911, and attempted first aid. The 911 call, placed at 4:22 p.m., captured Rogers telling the dispatcher, "My girlfriend shot herself. She's bleeding bad. Please hurry." First responders arrived at approximately 4:31 p.m. Paramedics found Genmia unconscious with a single gunshot wound to the left side of her head. Emergency medical technicians stabilized her before she was airlifted to the University of Alabama at Birmingham Hospital's Trauma Center. Despite doctors' best efforts, the damage was too severe. Genmia was pronounced dead at 6:17 p.m. Her death certificate listed the cause as gunshot wound to the head and manner as pending investigation. Initially, police treated the scene as a possible suicide based on Rogers' account. Officers documented the vehicle's position, the location of the weapon, a 9mm handgun registered to Rogers, and the blood spatter pattern. Rogers was questioned as a witness but not immediately arrested. Detective Marcus Johnson, the lead investigator, described the initial approach. We gathered evidence without preconceptions. Mr. McLeod's statement was just one piece of information among many we needed to evaluate. That methodical approach soon revealed a major inconsistency in Rogers' account. The medical examiner's preliminary report noted something significant. The entry wound was located on the left temple of Genmia's head. The location of the wound raised immediate questions, explained forensic analyst Dr. Sarah Williams. Genmia was right-hand. For a right-hand individual to inflict a wound on the left temple would require an awkward, almost impossible positioning of the arm, particularly in the confined space of a vehicle's passenger seat. This physical impossibility was the first crack in Rogers' story, leading investigators to view the case not as a suicide but as a potential homicide. Additional evidence from the autopsy, including the bullet's trajectory and gunpowder residue patterns, further contradicted the self-infliction narrative. As news of Genmia's death spread, those who knew her reacted with shock and skepticism about the circumstances. Her mother, appearing visibly distraught in an interview, vehemently rejected the idea that her daughter would take her own life. No. She wouldn't even test a gun. She was afraid of guns. This statement was corroborated by multiple friends who confirmed Genmia's aversion to firearms. Her former roommate told police that Genmia had once refused to attend a birthday celebration at a shooting range, saying she didn't want to be anywhere near guns. Genmia's dance coach added, "This was a young woman with everything to live for." She had just been talking about summer dance workshops and her plans for senior year. She was excited about her future. Perhaps most compelling was the evidence of Genmia's dedication to her 9-month-old son. In the days before her death, she had been researching childcare options and had registered for a parenting workshop. These were not the actions of someone planning to end their life. The contradiction between Rogers' account and the emerging evidence caught media attention. What had initially been reported as a tragic suicide was quickly reframed as a suspicious death under investigation. Social media amplified the story, with hashtags like #JusticeForGenmia and #PurpleDollForever spreading across platforms. Former classmates organized a virtual vigil, sharing memories and dance videos of Genmia while calling for a thorough investigation. As media spotlight intensified, pressure mounted on the Montgomery Police Department to resolve the inconsistencies in the case. As the initial shock of Genmia's death subsided, the Montgomery Police Department's investigation intensified. Detective Marcus Johnson, a 15-year veteran with experience in domestic violence cases, began methodically building a more complete picture of what happened on Interstate 85 that fateful afternoon. In cases like these, physical evidence tells the story that witnesses might not, Detective Johnson later explained in court documents. And in this case, the physical evidence was speaking loudly. Forensic analysis of the vehicle revealed blood spatter patterns inconsistent with self-infliction. The trajectory of blood droplets suggested Genmia had been facing slightly away from the gun when it discharged, not toward it as would be expected in a suicide. Furthermore, gunshot residue tests showed concentrations on Rogers' hand that exceeded what would be expected from simply being in the vicinity of a discharged weapon. The weapon itself yielded crucial evidence. While Rogers claimed Genmia had retrieved the gun from the glove compartment, the only fingerprints on the gun and ammunition belonged to Rogers. Genmia's prints were conspicuously absent, even from the areas of the weapon she would have necessarily touched to fire it. Most damning was the ballistics report, which estimated the shot was fired from approximately 20 to 24 inches away from Genmia's head, a distance inconsistent with typical self-inflicted wounds, which are usually contact or near-contact wounds. As these forensic details emerged, public pressure mounted. The case had struck a chord with communities far beyond Montgomery. In Atlanta, Genmia's hometown, local activists organized a march demanding justice for Genmia. At Alabama State University, students held vigils, wearing purple, both for domestic violence awareness and in honor of her dance name, Purple Doll. Social media amplified these efforts. A TikTok video showing Genmia's dance performances juxtaposed with facts about domestic violence went viral, garnering millions of views and bringing national attention to the case. Celebrity dancers and choreographers shared the hashtag #DanceForGenmia, keeping her story in the public consciousness. This groundswell of public support pushed the investigation forward with unprecedented speed and resources. The police department assigned additional detectives to the case, and the district attorney's office began consulting closely with investigators, preparing for what was increasingly looking like a homicide prosecution. While the forensic investigation continued, detectives delved deeper into McLeod's background and behavior. Former teammates and classmates painted a complex picture of a young man with a troubling pattern of behavior toward women. He was always controlling with her, said a former teammate who requested anonymity. If she was even a few minutes late meeting him after practice, he'd blow up her phone with texts. Sometimes he'd show up during team events and just stand there watching her. It made everyone uncomfortable. Another student recalled witnessing an argument between Rogers and Genmia 3 weeks before her death. He grabbed her arm so hard when she tried to walk away that I could see his fingerprints on her skin afterward. When I asked if she was okay, she just smiled and said it was nothing, but her eyes told a different story. Rogers' social media history, secured through search warrants, revealed concerning messages to Genmia, alternating between expressions of love and possessiveness and thinly veiled threats when he felt she wasn't giving him enough attention or was spending too much time on dance activities. Dr. Elaine Foster, the domestic violence expert, reviewed the evidence and offered her professional analysis. What we see here follows the classic pattern of intimate partner homicide. The victim was taking steps toward independence, excelling in school, maintaining her dance career, being a mother. Often, when an abuser feels their control slipping, that's when the situation becomes most dangerous. Investigators discovered that Genmia had recently spoken with an academic counselor about summer internship opportunities in Atlanta, a potential move that would have created distance between her and Rogers. They also found search history on her laptop for apartments in Atlanta, suggesting she was contemplating a more permanent separation. These discoveries aligned with what experts call separation danger. The period when a victim of domestic violence is at highest risk of homicide is often when they are planning to leave or have recently left their abuser. As the investigation entered its second week, the turning point came from an unexpected source. A truck driver who had been traveling on Interstate 85 the afternoon of March 27 came forward with dash cam footage that captured Rogers' car pulled over approximately half a mile before the location where he claimed the shooting occurred. The footage, though not clearly showing the individuals, displayed the car stopped for approximately 3 minutes before continuing down the highway, then stopping again at the location Rogers reported in his 911 call. This directly contradicted his claim that he immediately stopped and called for help after the shooting. This new evidence, combined with the forensic findings, gave investigators and prosecutors confidence to move forward with an arrest. On April 3, 2025, just 1 week after Genmia's death, Rogers McLeod was taken into custody and charged with capital murder. The arrest affidavit stated that based on physical evidence, witness statements, and expert analysis, there is probable cause to believe that Rogers McLeod deliberately discharged a firearm at Genmia Grimes with intent to cause death. Rogers was held without bond, deemed both a flight risk and a danger to the community. His attorney released a brief statement maintaining his client's innocence and claiming that facts will emerge during trial that will clear Mr. McLeod of these charges. The university responded swiftly to the arrest. Alabama State University issued a formal statement on their website and social media platforms. Alabama State University mourns the loss of Genmia Grimes, a junior criminal justice major, the statement read. We extend our deepest condolences to her family, friends, and all who were touched by her kindness and spirit. Our thoughts and prayers are with her loved ones during this difficult time. The university also announced the establishment of the Genmia Grimes Memorial Scholarship for student parents and increased funding for campus domestic violence prevention programs. The Honey Bees dance team retired Genmia's position, declaring that her spirit would remain an eternal part of their performances. As the case moved toward trial, the intersection of tragedy, domestic violence, and justice continued to resonate beyond the boundaries of the university and the city of Montgomery. Genmia's story had become a rallying point for conversations about intimate partner violence among young adults, a problem too often hidden behind closed doors and social media facades of perfect relationships. The death of Genmia Grimes left an indelible mark on multiple communities, creating ripples of grief that extended from her family in Atlanta to her academic and dance communities in Alabama. Her funeral, held in Atlanta, drew hundreds of mourners, including her entire dance team who performed a special tribute choreographed in her honor. Today we don't just mourn the loss of Genmia, we celebrate the light she brought into our lives, said her dance coach during the service. Her body may have left us, but her spirit continues to dance among us. The ceremony blended traditional elements with dance performances, reflecting the dual nature of Genmia's life. The serious student and devoted mother alongside the vibrant dancer who lit up every stage she graced. Purple ribbons adorned the venue, while dancers from both her high school and university performed in her memory. Perhaps the most poignant moment came when her 9-month-old son was brought forward, too young to understand the significance of the day but nevertheless the living embodiment of Genmia's legacy. The child, now without either parent actively in his life, became the focus of both sympathy and concrete support from the communities that had loved his mother. This innocent child is caught in a tragedy not of his making, said Genmia's mother during an interview following the funeral. Our focus now is ensuring he grows up knowing how special his mother was, and that he receives all the love and opportunities she would have wanted for him. Custody of the child was awarded to Genmia's mother, with support from extended family members. A trust fund established through a GoFundMe campaign raised over $50,000 for his future education and needs, with donations coming from dance communities across the country, criminal justice departments at multiple universities, and thousands of individuals touched by Genmia's story. While the family began the painful process of rebuilding their lives around this devastating loss, the legal system continued its work. Rogers McLeod remained in custody awaiting trial, with prosecutors indicating they would pursue the maximum penalty given the evidence of premeditation and the domestic violence context of the crime. Legal experts following the case noted its significance beyond the tragedy of one lost life. The Grimes case highlights how crucial it is for law enforcement to recognize the signs of domestic violence and respond appropriately, explained criminal justice professor Dr. Jameson Wright. The initial hesitation to arrest, despite physical evidence contradicting the suspect's story, reveals ongoing challenges in how domestic violence cases are handled. The case prompted the Montgomery Police Department to announce a review of their domestic violence response protocols and additional training for officers in recognizing signs of intimate partner violence. Similar initiatives spread to other departments across Alabama and Georgia, with Genmia's story used as a teaching example. At Alabama State University, Genmia's death became a catalyst for increased awareness and prevention efforts. The university established a dedicated domestic violence resource center, offering confidential counseling, legal advice, and emergency assistance to students experiencing relationship abuse. We cannot bring Genmia back, but we can honor her memory by creating systems that might save others, said the university president during the center's opening ceremony. No student should ever have to choose between their education and their safety. The Criminal Justice Department, where Genmia had been studying, developed a specialized course on domestic violence investigation and intervention, incorporating her case as a learning tool for future law enforcement professionals. Students in the program dedicated a research project to analyzing how the system could have better protected her. The impact on the dance community was equally profound. The honeybees dedicated their season to Genmia, wearing purple ribbons on their uniforms and incorporating a moment of silence for her before each performance. Dance studios in both Atlanta and Montgomery created scholarships in her name for talented dancers facing financial hardships. Dance was Genmia's voice, her freedom, her joy, explained her former dance instructor. By creating opportunities for other young dancers, especially those facing challenges, we keep that voice alive. Beyond the immediate communities touched by her life, Genmia's story reached a national audience through media coverage and social media campaigns. Domestic violence organizations reported increased calls to hotlines following coverage of her case, with many young callers specifically citing her story as their motivation to seek help. A documentary filmmaker began collecting interviews for a project titled Dancing Through Darkness, Genmia's Story, aiming to educate young people about relationship red flags and resources for safety. The project, supported by both Genmia's family and domestic violence advocacy organizations, sought to transform her tragedy into a tool for prevention. For those considering supporting someone in a potentially abusive relationship, experts emphasize the importance of remaining connected even when it seems the person is pulling away. Isolation is a key tactic of abusers, explained Dr. Foster. When friends and family maintain contact, they provide not just emotional support but a literal lifeline. Resources for those experiencing domestic violence include the National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-799-7233, which provides 24/7 crisis support, safety planning, and referrals to local resources. On college campuses, Title IX offices, counseling centers, and campus security can offer immediate assistance and ongoing support. As the Montgomery community prepared for the eventual trial of McLeod, many reflected on how a young life so full of promise could end so tragically. The contrast between Genmia's bright future, her upcoming graduation, her dance career, her role as a mother, and her violent end underscored the devastating impact of domestic violence. May Genmia's memory be a blessing for her family and for all who knew her, wrote a classmate in a memorial post that was shared thousands of times. And may her life and death be an inspiration and a turning point towards justice and increased protection for domestic abuse survivors. In dance studios, criminal justice classrooms, and domestic violence shelters across the country, Genmia's spirit lives on, not just in memories of her talent and smile, but in concrete changes to systems and increased awareness that may save other lives. While justice through the legal system remains pending, the broader impact of her story continues to unfold, touching lives far beyond those who had the privilege of knowing her personally. Before we end this episode, take a moment to reflect on the warning signs we've discussed. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out to local resources or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Remember that leaving an abusive relationship is often the most dangerous time for victims, so professional guidance for safety planning is crucial. Genmia Grimes, dancer, student, mother, and now, tragically, a symbol of a problem that continues to claim too many lives, deserves to be remembered not just for how she died, but for how she lived, and for the changes her story continues to inspire.